Welcome to Gardening with Heidi. Today we are going to be talking about the lemongrass plant. This plant is wonderful to have in your yard. It is wonderful, even more wonderful to have in your kitchen. So if you like Thai food like I do, ooh, that tom kha soup, the lemongrass stems down here is what they've used to flavor that coconut soup. These leaves as well can be used to make a wonderful, refreshing herbal infusion. And so we will have those videos in the future. And I'm going to show you, this is my lemongrass stash from my kitchen. This is what I've harvested in the past. And you can see it's beautiful. So you just boil that on the stove and it is truly delicious. So that's another video, but I'm just letting you know. And also, if you have a cat, my cat loves this stuff. He begs for it every day. He just peeks out the window and looks at my lemongrass plants. That's why we have them. So we're building up our lemongrass stash so that we can appease our cat and our tea drinking. So you just get a little piece off like that. So what we're going to do today is transplant these into a pot. So I had one of these wonderful plants a while ago, and you know what came in and lived with it? Do you know? Take a guess. Leave a comment in the below. And I'm going to tell you what it was in a little bit. But I want to see those comments flowing in. What do you think was living in this? Southwest Florida, come on. What kind of critter might live in here? Anyway, so I'm choosing to put it into a raised pot so that these leaves, when they fall over, aren't on the ground, and that my yard people don't accidentally spray it with something that I don't want to ingest, or my cat, for instance. So what I did was I already came through here just to kind of prepare for this video, and I trimmed up some of the brown pieces that were here, you know, just to kind of help this plant. It just had survived that Eta hurricane, or whatever it was, Eta hurricane, and so it did get a lot of wind thrashing, and it had been in a pot for a while, so it's just ready to get out of this pot. So I've trimmed it up a little bit. It's something you might want to do before you do that, and you can save this after we transplant it and put it on the top of the soil like this if you want to come in here, but we'll show you what that is. But there's supposedly, as this breaks down, there's some microbials, or like it has like an antibacterial or antifungal effect on the soil. So a lot of times problems that can happen in plants is the soil gets funky and fungus can grow on that and cause problems for the plant. So even these, the brown ones, you can just chop and drop right around it and around your other plants to help keep little critters and fungus, soil fungus to grow on there. So next we're going to go on over and I'm going to show you how to plant this into a potted pot. If you don't know how to mix your own soil, I did do the previous video on that, so go check out that video after you finish this one, and we're demonstrating on how to make the soil for yourself if you don't want to buy the pre-mix, so that you can have healthy plants in your pots. Okay, here we go, potting up the lemongrass. Okay, so we have this pre-mixed potting mix that we already did. If you don't have it, you can use a potting mix pre-made, but here we go. I'm gonna do this, I guess, right in the front so we can see what's happening. Oh, those rocks are heavy. So you're gonna wanna fill up the bottom, and you're gonna wanna test the height of your pot to the soil level. So you just set it in there, and you can see this is the top of the pot. This is the kind of the, oops, sorry about that. That was kind of fast. This is kind of the crown of the plant here, where the root ball and the plant material are connected. So this is the most important part of the plant to be aware of when you're potting your plant. So I am going to be adding a little bit more soil. This is really light, fluffy soil, so it is going to compact when we water it in. So I don't want the plant to sink too much. So here we go, we're gonna test it again. Now, I don't necessarily want to go all the way to the top of this pot because I do want to mulch the soil because the sun here just gets so intense and it does get pretty dry here, and it also gets very wet in the summer. So I do want to give it a little bit of space to mulch and put some stones over it so that we can have some good drainage and also some protection for the soil so I don't need to be a slave to watering this thing every day. So for me, this height looks pretty good. So what I want to make sure is that I'm tamping this down really hard because I don't want it to settle too much. So when you're removing a pot from the root ball, you want to do it over the pot. So in case if any of the soil falls out, it's going to fall in there too. And you just gently turn it upside down and remove it like that. Ugh. Woo. Okay, you can see the roots on this aren't really root bound. So I did transplant this a little while ago. So you can see there, you see the roots on the bottom. There isn't a lot of them. So this is I could have left it in that other pot for a little bit longer, but I just wanted to get this one planted and done, and so it can start to be happy. So this looks good. If your roots are going around and around in a circle, that plant might not have the best longevity due to it being root bound. So you're going to want to kind of set it in the middle, set it up in the middle like that, okay? And then what I'm going to do is come around and fill it in. Kind of go on each side. And again, having it pretty tight in there is good. There is a little bit of sand. Remember, I mixed some sand in this because we do live in Southwest Florida. We do get a lot of rain in the summertime, so you got to have this real tight because this medium drains really fast, but it does have a little bit of soil retention properties as well. So I'm going to keep mounding this up so it's nice and even with that crown. That crown can be a little bit higher, but you don't want the edges higher than the crown because then the water will pool down and water will form around the crown and you can get rot. So you always want it to be level or just a little bit higher. Okay? So what I can do too is water this in. I'm gonna go get the hose. We're gonna water it in and see how, make sure all the air pockets are out, press it down, and see how we stand. Be right back. All right, I got my hose. So this thing has been sitting out in the sun. So make sure if you have a hose that's been out and the sun's been hitting it that you let that water go because that's too hot. You don't want hot water on your plants. So make sure you test the temperature before you water in your plants. Always water in your plants after you plant them, and when you're planting in the ground, you're watering in as you're planting. It's kind of crazy. So this is a little bit different than watering or than direct planting into the ground, but what I want to do is just let this saturate in real good and make sure there aren't any air pockets on the bottom and that I get this soil level right so that we don't expose any roots at this really critical part. Right here, you can see this is where it was planted originally. So this is that crown that we're talking about, and it is a little bit higher, so this is settling. But you can see this is there are roots in here, but we're doing good. I think we're almost there. I'm gonna just sprinkle on a little bit more. and you don't want to cover up any leaves underneath your stuff, so your potting mix. Okay. Now this first time you're really going to want to water it all the way in where it soaks all the way through the soil. And then you're going to let it rest. And then you're going to plant it somewhere where it's getting irrigation. And remember, this plant likes a lot of full sun, so your lemongrass is going to be happier in full sun. And they don't really like it when it's too cold either, so you might get brown or whatever in the wintertime. Just trim it back, cut it back, and it'll regrow. So what I'm going to do is, what you could do with this is, like I said, you can mulch over it, or you can use something really nice like this river rock here. Is a nice, looks really nice inside a container. It is good, however, if you're going to be potting up your plant, to have it close to the location where you want to leave it. Like, we're just doing this here for good lighting, for this video purposes. But when you're doing this, think about where you're going to want this, the final place, resting place, and pot it there so you don't have to hurt your back moving it around and so forth. Especially if you're putting these rocks in. This bag of rocks is like 40 pounds, I think. It's pretty heavy. These rocks too will also help stabilize this planter in heavy winds. So down here in Southwest Florida and around these regions, we do get a lot of wind. So that'll help that plant from getting blown over and damaged. So river rocks would be nice. You could just put them in here real nice like that. You could even put a little mulch on the bottom, which breaks down and provides nutrients to the soil, and then put the rocks on top of it. You know, that would be great, but this is something you can do and it'll just look really nice. You can just dump them on there. You can use black, you can use white. Now white, you know, might reflect, but these dark ones will keep it nice and warm in the winter months. But depending on your preference, if you like white ones or black ones, or there's those lava rocks that are the red ones, those work well, as really nice as well. So you would fill it so you just can't see the soil. What this also helps when we get those really hard rains, it helps from when the rain hits, it splashes the soil out. You don't want to lose these precious nutrients, and you don't want to splash up soil up onto the plant material that you might be eating from. So it's good to kind of cover up that soil, keep it in there, once the water penetrates through, it won't evaporate as fast. So that's the purpose for mulch. This mulching method does not increase the nutrients of the soil, however, if you were to use like a cypress wood chip or something like that. Those break down and add to the soil. So there you have it. Lemongrass in a pot. Use it for tea, use it in your Thai cooking. It'll grow. It'll keep growing. It'll just grow until it dies. So, or you get, oh, did you remember when I asked you what you thought might have been in there? I had a snake nest in the base of my huge plant. And my mom, I discovered it, I think my mom found out about it, and she cut the whole plant and took it out of the yard. So I have been sad ever since. And now I have my lemongrass plant. Keep gardening.